This is the Albuquerque Business Podcast with your host, Jason Rigby. Each week, we interview leading local business leaders to inspire the vision and spirit that is in every entrepreneur, discussing strengths, weakness, strategies, systems, and the problems we can all solve together to fulfill a shared vision of a new future for Albuquerque.
What up? This is Jason Rigby with the Albuquerque Business Podcast. Today on the show, we have live in the studio right now. I believe this show is going to be a super help to you. We have someone that's going to be talking about the physical aspect. I know we always talk about physical, mental, and spiritual, but I want to get into the physical today because I believe that affects every part of your life, whether it's with your relationships, whether it's in your business. So we're going to be talking about diet. We're going to be talking about health. We're going to be talking about moving properly and some of the things that you can do with that. So that'll be awesome. I want to thank 99.9 The BFM. If you own a business, stream 99.9 The BFM. It's a local radio station that's here in Albuquerque. It's not for profit. It's minority owned. It has 90s R&B. You've got 80s hip hop, whatever it is. It's a great station to stream at your business. You can go to 99.9 The BFM. You can put it on your dial, your radio station, or you can stream it online either way. Also want to thank Duke City Marketing. You can go to their website at www.dukecitymarketing.com. If you have tried SEO and cookie cutter SEO, or maybe you've tried some Facebook ads or some Google ads and it hasn't really worked for you, maybe you use a company that's outside of Albuquerque, give Duke City Marketing a try. You can tell them with the Albuquerque Business Podcast, they'll give you a special. They have packages, monthly packages for digital marketing that are local that start at $4.97 a month. So go to dukecitymarketing.com. But today in the studio, we have Patrick Ryan II.
Yes,
so how are you the second?
Named right after my dad. Yeah, easy enough. He didn't want me to be known or spoken to or called Junior.
So there's no Junior.
No Junior. No Junior.
So if we go to your website or we go to any of that, there'll be nothing Junior.
No, I have. As I'm getting older, I'm having to be more, I guess you could say, proactive in filling out paperwork, any kind of documentation, and making sure I'm the second. Because if I call, say like for a phone bill or insurance, they end up mixing me up with my dad if I don't have the Roman numeral.
Yeah,
Roman numeral too. So
my parents messed me up, so they call me by my middle name, Jason.
Okay,
so my name is actually Troy Jason Rigby.
Oh, okay, cool.
But it has messed me up because when people call me, and they ask for Troy, well, I know they actually don't know me, which that can be kind of a good thing, but it's always that whole combination. Right. So I get the struggle with the name from there. So Patrick, do you mind telling me a little bit about yourself and what you do and how that could relate to our audience?
Absolutely. So I'm a fitness professional based out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, here in the land of enchantment. And my specialty is I help middle-aged guys and gals, those of which that might have young families, help get in shape and what I call bringing sexy back. So
that's awesome.
Also work with a lot of young and older professionals in the community, both in town as well as predominantly online through an online platform, and just helping people find sustainable solutions to any and all of their health goals.
Yeah, and I don't know, people can't see us. We'll take a picture later, but I'm trying to describe you. You kind of look like a Viking, big red beard.
Sure.
I see like on your logo or something on your website.
Right.
What's your website again?
It's aware.training.
Okay, aware.training, but you have like a man bun or something that on top.
Yeah.
But that's so everybody knows. So you have this buff Viking-looking dude. Have you been offered to be playing in any TV shows?
Well, it's really funny. I've had it's rather several instances where I've been mistaken for Tormund from Game of Thrones.
Yes.
As well as Justin Turner. I believe he's the third baseman of the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Oh, yeah. I know who you're talking about.
I was, a couple months ago, I was at the Shed up in Santa Fe eating dinner with some friends, and I had a lady ask for my autograph thinking I was Justin Turner. She wanted me to get an autograph for her son. So.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah. But I would picture any of these like Viking shows or like pirate shows or any of that be like dead on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's cool. What possessed you to have like such a long beard? Is it just something cool?
Interestingly enough, I've gone the majority, I would say 90% of my life, not having long hair and or any legitimate facial hair to
Right.
that of having a beard. So I would say it was around 3, maybe 4 years ago, I just got to the point where I made the decision, you know what, I'm just gonna go for it and see what it's like. While I have hair on my head and while I'm able to grow facial hair, I might as well have fun with it.
Yeah, exactly.
But
yeah.
it's stuck. I really enjoy it.
No, I think you even have it in your branding, so that
Yes,
works.
yeah.
With your logo, I like
Yeah.
your logo. That looks really
Thanks,
good.
man.
Yeah, doing digital marketing, I always look at things like that.
Sure.
With websites and stuff like that. So, can you describe a little bit about what you do and what you do with your website as far as coaching goes?
Absolutely. So let's see, how do I want to start? So speaking as a professional in the industry for around 7 years now, the common thread within the industry is more short-term, I would call kind of 0 to 100 mile an hour programs, where it's more of a white knuckle approach where you're pushing clients through a very, very fast-paced routine in a short period of time in order to get them results, which understandably so, that's what the majority of clients or customers think that they need. I come from the opposite end of the spectrum, so to speak, in that I coach my clients through a 12-month, year-long curriculum and coaching them through sustainable nutrition counseling as well as same thing, sustainable exercise programming. So rather than you or any individual for that matter feeling like you've got to have the quote unquote perfect set of circumstances in order to start eating healthier or start exercising more, I actually meet you where you're at. So it's more of a client-centered approach to where through email, text message, phone call support, it's a whole myriad of mediums that I kind of integrate in order to helping my clients. I help coach you through whatever it is you're going through at the time, whether I've had clients that just starting in the hospital, whether they had an injury or a sickness that they were able to access their material from me on the internet through their phone. I meet them where they're at. There's no perfect quote unquote set of circumstances that means that kind of grants anybody the opportunity to start. It's start where you're at. That's part of your investment in me as a fitness professional, is to identify where you're starting, how I can help you improve your current situation, and then continue to slowly increase that over a longer period of time. It makes it a little bit more, I'd say a little easier to digest for the client rather than feeling like, oh, I've got 6 weeks where I've got to go through this breakneck workout routine or strict eating meal program in order for me to reach my goals. It's a much longer term approach. I always tell my clients, it's my job to get you in the best shape of your life for the rest of your life. I don't get really pushy with pushing things or shoving things down their throats, so to speak. And that's coming from the perspective of, I know I'll be in the industry much longer, but during my time in the industry, I have come from that end of the spectrum where I thought the best way was to create a strict meal program for clients and a strict workout program. And the adherence to that was actually rather low. So it meant I had to really, really reevaluate my style of coaching to make sure that I had a much higher level of success for my clients.
I think so many people think that they get a scare or something happens,
Sure.
Maybe they go to the doctor and the doctor says, I had a friend of mine, his liver enzymes or something was really messed up because he was drinking a lot.
Okay.
And so quit cold turkey.
Sure.
He didn't drink for a whole year, and so something like that happens in somebody's life.
Mm-hmm.
But let's walk through, like, if there's somebody, a man or woman out there that's 40 years old, maybe they're looking at that in their life. They're a successful business person. They're doing well. They have some extra pounds on them.
Sure.
They used to work out. I mean, you see this all the time.
Right.
They used to work out. They're eating quickly because they're working so much.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the things that you've seen and some of the things that you would coach through with someone like that?
Yeah, so I would say the root of a lot of my coaching style is primarily geared in and around more mindfulness-based techniques. We also, through my coaching, it's a matter of also acknowledging there's a heavy cultural component to what we're dealing with. And don't get me wrong, I love the hustle. I love working hard, but there's a time and a place for it. And there
Right.
are instances where that might overstay its welcome in regards to making sure we're making time for ourselves, just in instances of just the 10 or 15 minutes during each meal that we're eating. So instead of coaching a client to just keep grinding, keep pushing harder and harder and harder, I try to, integrate a system for them to just meet them where they're at. So you have a busy, young, old, middle-aged professional that's super busy during work, stuff of that sort. I would just start with trying to add a little bit more mindfulness to their eating, to their meals.
Right.
I love the fact that we've got every bit of information we'd ever want on our phones, but there's a time and a place for that. So I would probably start with having them just slide their phone to the end of the table while they eat. Try to eliminate as much distraction as possible. More often than not, when people are eating, they're staring at their phones, they're distracted, or that can end up translating into when people are eating in bed or eating right before bed, they're watching TV, they're distracted. Their mind and you could say their conscious state and awareness is being taken away from that actual meal that's nourishing them. So what that usually ends up translating to while they're distracted is they're eating more than they actually think that they're eating, or they're eating quicker. So they're not tuned in. They're not paying so much. I like to use kind of like a hot date analogy. If you're out on a hot date and you're looking at your phone while your significant other is across the table, they're not going to be very happy with you. You know what I mean? Right. So it's a level of attentiveness to what you're currently doing. And at that point, I'm not really pulling the rug out from underneath them and telling them, you need to stop cold turkey eating X, Y, or Z. It's like, for now, focus more attention to what you're currently eating, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. And what usually ends up happening, and this is what happens typically in the first few months of my program and coaching my clients, is I coach them on how to eat before I coach them on what to eat. Because if I'm not coaching them on how to more mindfully consume and mindfully engage in their exercise, nothing's ever really going to change regardless of what they're eating. So whether they're eating something healthy or something unhealthy, at the end of the day, they can always go back to that foundational element of, I'm taking my time, my phone's away, I'm not distracted, I'm eating slowly, I'm paying attention to my hunger cues, all those things that usually mean they're eating fewer calories. So it's a practice just like anything else. So take 3 square meals a day. Maybe at each meal you're eating 50 less calories or 100 less calories per meal. That adds up over time.
Yeah, it's compounding.
Yeah, and it usually results in a little bit of weight loss without them even having to do anything dramatic. And
so remove your phones.
Try it. Eliminate distraction.
Yeah, I like that.
Just to kind of, one thing that I've always appreciated with, say, families that impose a no cell phone rule in their house while they're eating dinner, it's an opportunity to connect not only with your food, but with those that you're consuming the food with.
Right.
I don't really have much of a problem that we live in a culture that entertainment is solely rooted in eating food. I don't see a problem with that as long as we're treating it with the amount of positive intention that it deserves. Because if I'm distracted while I'm eating with you or eating with anybody else, I'm losing that connection with you, much like we're engaging in this podcast right now, and I'm not on my phone. I'm looking you in the eye, and my attention is on you, which it adds a level of gravity and depth to that experience. So viewing it through that lens, I don't want to go too down the rabbit hole, but food being a bridge for experience. It's happened in the entirety of our existence. So I think we need to go back to treating it with that much intention and that much thought, and changing how we eat before we change what we eat.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people. I was talking to an executive the other day, and they were doing Uber Eats. So that's the thing now. Everybody's so busy.
Sure.
And they were just grabbing whatever was the quickest, or whatever they were in the mood for.
Right.
But I see a lot of people, like, and I have to watch this with myself too, is like food cravings. Mm-hmm. And you're so busy in your mind, like you said, your mind is so caught into your work.
Yeah.
Or I've got it's 12 o'clock and at 1:15 I have a meeting.
Sure.
And so I'm focused on what's on the meeting, and between 12 and 1:15 I need to eat, because I'm starting to get, like for me, starting to get a little shaky.
Sure.
And so I want to come in with the clear mindset.
Absolutely.
So can you talk a little bit about, like, if we get Uber Eats or we try to eat in a hurry, stuff like that, is there certain little changes they can make by what they order or where they go to eat if they're eating in restaurants and stuff like that?
Sure. This is where I really like to have a lot of fun with, I like to call it kind of like childlike intangibles that we were really good at when we were kids that we've kind of let go of as adults. And what I'm getting at is coaching my client. I always frame it in such a way, or phrase it in such a way, that we're going through guided trial and error. So it's knowing that you're not going to get this perfect the first time. You're not going to get it perfect the 50th time. But if we get imaginative and work on reframing that journey, or I call it that exploration. So like, this is just where my mind goes with things. So, and this, I've had to help a lot of people with this dynamic. Because one, I don't have an issue with the Uber Eats thing. If you don't have time to go get your food, use that to your advantage. But again, remaining mindful and conscious of what you are ordering, and giving yourself the opportunity to make some mistakes, make some improvements, to figure out like, what in my general area because we're going to have plenty of practice. We're
Right.
always going to be eating. You know what I mean? So it's viewing it through that lens of like, I'm going to get plenty of practice. I kind of, in this particular instance, I kind of like to call it an urban expedition, so to speak. You're kind of like to view it as you're searching through this urban area for healthier meal options. And the only way that you're going to figure that out is by going and ordering things and figuring out what works best for you. But going through that constant trial and error, obviously, if you have a friend or a loved one, or even if you are hiring a trainer in your corner to kind of bounce those meal options off of to get a better or more detailed or filtered idea as to eat this, not that, and giving you a better idea as to what might be a little bit more preferable, and ordering is always going to help. But even regardless of what you are consuming, I always try to coach clients through a dynamic known as the 80% rule. So whether you're eating something healthy, unhealthy, etc., wherever it falls on that continuum, eating until you're 80% full. So what that means is I will have consumed this meal. 20% of that plate might be left to either get held onto as leftovers or maybe even just throwing it in the trash.
Right.
But eating to a point to where you finish that meal and you actually could still feel good enough to get up, maybe do a light workout, or even just get up and go walk around. And that's where the limiting being distracted comes into play, because if you're eating and you're not distracted, you're able to pay attention to your fullness cues. You're taking longer to eat. It takes about 15, instead of taking 10 minutes to eat, you're taking maybe 15, 20 minutes of that time to just eat and get full. But it's ultimately rooted in knowing that you're going to go through some guided trial and error and reframing that experience and limiting the distractions of having phones or TVs around while you're eating, and actually paying attention to like, okay, I ordered this meal option from this place and I actually didn't feel too bad after eating it. So that might be a viable candidate to eat again in the future, as opposed to, okay, I ate this today and I felt terrible. Maybe you ate too much, or maybe you ate just enough and it just sat too heavy. It was maybe too greasy. And just making these mental notes or writing stuff down. So I think a lot of it more so has to do with this guided trial and error approach, more so, at least initially, more so than it's about trying to make sure that you've got the perfect, because a lot of people think, oh, in order to eat healthy, or whenever they're eating out, they've got to eat salads all the time.
Right. You have to go to Whole Foods every day.
Right. Yeah. And in all reality, that's not realistic. And I feel just making those mental notes, or even creating a list of like, I ate this, one day and I really felt good and I was able to go and work out later that day, or I ate this and I felt terribly, is really going to help hone in your search. But again, a lot of it has to do with acknowledging the evolution of your food options and your meal choices is going to take a considerable amount of time, whether it's a few months, half a year, an entire year. I'm speaking from personal experience, and the evolution of my food choices has changed dramatically over I would say the last 6 or 7 years. So acknowledging, like, knowing that you're playing, I like to kind of refer to each one of my clients as marathoners. You're a marathoner in this. You're trying the best that you can with each meal option. And over time, as you stay consistent with this, it's only going to get better. It's a matter of when, not if.
Yeah, I like that, because without getting like testing for food allergies and doing all this, you don't know. But deep down inside, you can know what that meal is doing to you.
Sure.
You can feel, like you're saying, you can feel that, whether you're bloated or, but if you can't, like you said, do a light workout or walk around, I love that, because it just keeps it very, very simple.
Yes, very practical.
Yeah, and so I think, for all of us, because I think that could be one of the biggest issues that we face is just overeating.
Yeah. But it starts at a foundational level, and I think it starts with the whole being a little bit more mindful, trying to eliminate as much distraction as you can, as well as acknowledging there are going to be times where you're going to be on your phone. But as time goes on, you might be distracted one time eating, but you might have ordered a little bit more preferable meal option. But just being mindful and aware enough and acknowledging, okay, I was more distracted than I wanted to while I was eating today or at this particular meal, and not getting so caught up in beating yourself up over it. I'd like to try and integrate as much self-compassion in my coaching towards my client and how they kind of guide themselves through that, because it's super easy to go to a place of being like, I failed, I completely screwed up, I'm starting from square one. It's like, no, just because you had a bad meal and whatever happened, you might have not eaten something you would have normally have eaten and you were distracted, doesn't mean you're a failure. I like to do a lot of reframing. There's no such thing as failure, only feedback. So it's like, how do we look at those tough instances that you would otherwise just sweep under the rug and kind of let perpetuate previous habits as to how you manage that kind of stuff? And how do we actually shed light on that and look at it with much less judgment, because that's a learning opportunity.
Right.
So same with the hurdle of eating out and being busy. Like, I really enjoy talking about those instances because that's something a full-blown workout is not going to be able to cover.
Right, exactly.
That's why I kind of refer to it more as nutrition counseling rather than something as strict as meal program, because I want to learn the deeper context behind the 23 hours of the day that they're not working out.
You know, one of the things I see is, like you mentioned, the guilt.
Yeah.
So people are feeling guilty by either not working out or feeling guilty because, you know, they went to the restaurant that night and
right.
had, you know, whatever types of food. So you give them feedback, you said, to address the guilt?
Yeah, absolutely. It's more of a working within and granted, this is going to change on a case-by-case basis. I have certain clients that it takes them 6 months, 9 months, however long to really be willing to open it. Because I'm working against, and again, I like to reframe just because it keeps it more positive and more fun for me, but I like to view these kind of hurdles as really fun challenges and hurdles to overcome with my clients, because I'm working against, in my opinion, a considerable amount of stigma behind what a trainer does, how a trainer performs, and how a trainer coaches.
Right.
Because I can be very easily pigeonholed into just train me. Put together a workout to get me going today.
Hold me accountable and I'll lift
right.
the weight.
And it's really interesting. And although I think exercise is completely paramount, I think everybody can agree on that. It's interesting when it comes to the nutrition, quote unquote, counseling piece. That means I've got to sit down and talk with you. You know what I mean? And being able to do that during the middle of a workout is more often than not really difficult. And oftentimes it's been really interesting because I feel like sometimes individuals use exercising as a Band-Aid to something that needs surgery. And the thing that needs surgery is whether or not they're really willing to be open and vulnerable and letting me know, yeah, like I've got an alcohol problem.
Right.
Or I've got, I cope with eating these foods in mass quantities where I'm binging on the weekends, and knowing that they've got somebody in their corner, like I have no need to judge them. My interest is their own current benefit and future positive benefit in their own life. So it's a really intricate balance because one, what brings them in the door, or virtually brings them in the door, is they want to move more. That's fine. But usually what ends up changing over time in a more longer term approach is they get an understanding that there's so much deeper meaning and context behind this style of coaching than just, Jason, just go work out, go do this, this amount of reps. We've all heard it before. You can't out train or out exercise a bad diet. And it's more getting into the deeper psychological components as to, okay, why do you eat the way that you eat? Why does your family eat the way that you eat? And know that they've got someone in their corner I'm not there to judge them or push them down because of that. It's how do we work within this framework just a little bit better and try to improve it incrementally over time.
Yeah, I had not to get too personal, but I had a girlfriend that she would hide food, like hide chocolates and stuff.
Sure.
And I'm like, why not just, I confronted her on her one day and then she denied it. And I'm like, why are you denying that?
Right.
I don't really care.
Right.
And then why not just put it in the cabinet?
Right.
Why does it have to be in the walk-in closet and in the bathroom? And, why does there have to be all these little hiding spots? But like you were saying, if you can't be honest, how can you handle that?
Right. It's a case-by-case basis. I have some clients that right off the bat, open book, we're able to hit the ground running in that regard. And then other individuals are slow burns. And I view it as nothing short of an art in being able to know when to push, when to fall back, and understand like this person's going to take some time in being open with what they've currently got going on. And mind you, a lot of this in regards to my ethos of coaching is also rooted in my own experience with exercise and eating. And again, there are people who have been able to do this kind of stuff and haven't had the issues that I had. So I don't want to throw a blanket statement out there, but I did all natural bodybuilding for 3 years. And it was, for me, it was to the nth degree of an extreme, to where you're super diligent, you eat this, not that. But it was starting to evolve to a point to where I would trivialize almost every single food decision I made that was not in this meal program. And then anytime I would deviate from it or do the whole, hiding snacks or things like that and binging on snacks, there was such a heavy level of guilt.
Right.
And I've come to learn in my time working with hundreds of clients at this point pushing people and expecting people to hang out in the extreme end of the spectrum is just not sustainable. So, and it's not a means of getting caught up in mediocrity or anything like that. It's like we just live very intricate, in-depth lives, and to expect people to maintain a certain level of performance and eating to that of like a high level, what I call like a level 2 or maybe even a level 3 client that's like an athlete and they're getting paid to do what they do, it's not realistic. So we have to kind of reshape that lens and acknowledging, okay, we're going to have to do far more pivoting and adjusting based on circumstances, stuff going on with family, stuff going on with work, and do the best we can rather than just being like, oh, I hit a speed bump, I'm going to stop completely. And then next thing you know, you've gone 6-9 months without any exercise or any actual learning and how to better nourish yourself.
I know a lot. I mean, with my digital marketing company, I meet a lot of people. I'm meeting one today in a brewery.
Oh, cool.
So, so I drink a lot of IPAs, stuff like that. And I know you'd mentioned that earlier. And I know a lot of people here, especially in Albuquerque, that's kind of like the thing now. It's kind of like the latest, greatest. Is there steps to, if you're going to drink beer or, maybe there's, I know a lot of women that like to drink wine at night.
Sure.
Is there steps with that as far as, controlling? I mean, maybe a lot of people aren't full-blown alcoholics. But, there's a lot of, I see it. I mean, these breweries are packed.
Right.
It's fun to go out with your friends, have some beers. So what do you see as far as on a health, some of the things that we can do with that?
So I think it can be a multi-dimensional approach depending on how you're wanting to go about it. I'm always going to fall back on the foundational habits of just trying to be as mindful, slow down, take your time, whether it's consuming an actual meal where you're, eating off of a plate or even consuming a beverage. Take your time. I think the social aspect of things can actually pose a great benefit to that mindfulness component, because rather than me sitting on my own and having a plate in front of me and having the opportunity just to eat it all within 5 minutes, you're usually in this particular instance, you're with somebody. So you're conversing, you're talking. So actually utilizing those breaks in conversation to your advantage, to where, okay, a meal that might take 10, 15 minutes while you're eating by yourself could maybe take 20 to 30 because you're taking a bite, you're chewing, I'm listening to you talk, we're having this consistent back and forth, and actually drawing out that glass of wine or drawing out that beer or that meal to where it takes longer to consume, and in all actuality, it's giving your body more time to digest what it actually needs to digest without you overstuffing yourself. So I think using that social aspect of taking your time, take a bite of that meal, chew it, put your fork and knife down, talk, and just really drawing out that meal a little bit longer than you normally would by yourself, as well as, I call it kind of a level of coming out, letting people know that, those that you can trust, family, loved ones, friends, etc., that you're trying to be a little bit more mindful with your eating. It could be, and there have been instances where I've gone out with friends, family, what have you, and we've gone out and eaten and I've had my phone out. And if I've let them know, hey, I'm trying to be a little bit more mindful with my food consumption and not having my phone in front of my face. If I've got my phone out, can you call me out on it? And just let me know, hey, we're here to eat. Let's hang out, stuff like that. So I think just using the social aspect to your advantage in drawing out the meal or the consumption of that beverage, as well as, say you're meeting these people for meals frequently, really, really vying for their support and trying to create your own support network and letting them know you're trying to just kind of make subtle tweaks to how you're consuming your foods before even being like, I can go meet with you at a brewery, but I can't have a beer at all.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's trying to find that happy medium.
Yeah, I've been here lately. I've been doing a thing and it's helped out tremendously. I've been drinking 2 glasses of water to 1 beer.
Cool.
So, that seems it actually will cause you to organically drink less.
Oh, absolutely.
And then, you're having to go back and forth to the bathroom.
Yeah.
I'm 46, so 1 beer and 2 glasses of water.
Sure. No, that makes a difference. I try to make it a huge habit to drink as much water as possible during the meal as well, because it helps satiate you. It displaces a little bit of space in your stomach to where you could otherwise have that filled with more food.
Yeah, because I was reading a study and they were talking about how actually, especially here in America, and I imagine here in the desert, high desert, how dehydrated people are.
Yeah.
And how that affects you mentally with your brain. And, I was just shocked at the level of dehydration that people live in.
Oh, It's really interesting. Well, yeah, you saw I came in with my own water.
Yeah, he has a big jug of water here.
Right. I don't go anywhere without water. And I can't see why even implementing something like that, just trying to, it changes the way you kind of think about your day. You're looking at your day through the lens of how am I making sure that I'm taken care of with water.
First.
You know what I mean? Exactly. And then kind of letting everything take care of itself from there. But
I don't know if you've ever heard of Aubrey Marcus or not. He owns the On It Gym.
Yep.
He had, and I was talking to a guy yesterday with the podcast we did Instagram Live, but in his book, he has a thing called Fit for Service,
Okay.
And he uses that little statement, but being, fit for service, like you have to take care of yourself, be physically ready, because that is the only way you're going to give the best to those that you serve in your business, in your relationships, whatever it may be.
It's so true.
Yeah. So we're going to take a break real quick. We're at the 32-minute mark. So we're going to take a break, have a little commercial, and then we will be right back. And we're going to get into the fitness side of things.
Cool.
If that's cool.
That's perfect.
Thanks, Patrick.
Join us this week for another episode of the Albuquerque Business Podcast with your host, Jason Rigby. Each week, he interviews leading local business leaders that inspire the vision and spirit in every entrepreneur, discussing strengths, weakness, strategies, systems, and the problems we can all solve together to fulfill a shared vision of a new future for Albuquerque. Listen or download this Sunday afternoon at 4 from your favorite podcasting app.
And we're back. I know I was on this morning, Patrick, and I was on your Instagram, and I saw an amazing quote on it. So first, let's get what was the quote that you had that you put this morning? It was really good.
Yeah. I had put something on there stating weight loss is never just about losing the weight. It's about losing the habits that got you there in the first place and replacing them with better ones.
Yeah, that's good. I really like that. What is your Instagram handle? So everybody hop on and follow him.
Yeah. On Instagram, you can find me at aware_life_ABQ.
And, that's what I love about, I follow you on Instagram and I look, is the philosophy that you have that is so different towards fitness.
Sure.
And like you had said earlier, you alluded to it a little bit, like I'm going to hire a trainer and I want the trainer, I want to break records on bench pressing.
Sure.
Or, I need to work really hard so that I can, get past this little hurdle of losing 25 pounds or whatever it may be. And I'm going to Vegas in 60 days and I want to get, where you're looking at it as more of a coaching side, there's training involved, but it's a lifestyle of coaching. Can you talk a little bit about your philosophy? Like if let's say we have a business restaurant here and they wanted to hire you to train them, like the philosophy that you have with movement and what they should be with their body with exercise.
Yeah, I would say it's trying to kind of embrace as much of a minimalist. It's no different than the eating component of things. It's just trying to integrate a minimal and sustainable approach to exercising. So trying to find means to exercise as much as you can, as consistently as you can, whether that's you're going from 6 months or a year plus without exercising and just getting one day in a week, or breaking the stigma of thinking that you've got to get an hour in every single day or 3 times a week in order for you to really get where you want to go. If that's not realistic, given what you've got going on in relative, circumstance, okay, maybe we tie that or cut that down to 30 minutes or 20 minutes a day or every other day, stuff like that. So obviously it's going to be rooted in a case-by-case basis, but it's just trying to really figure out, okay, are there patterns in your schedule where you can get a little bit of movement in, whether maybe it means you don't go to the gym. And that's part of what makes my style of coaching through this particular platform really fun, because it's not solely rooted in clients feeling like the only way that they can get a legitimate workout in is by going to the gym. I have clients that are only able to go to the gym one day a week, and then the rest of their free time in order to actually get a workout in can be done at home. So then I give them options for that. So I give them an option for, okay, if you're able to go to the gym today, I have a gym-based workout. I have I guess you could say a short on time version of that workout, so 20-40 minutes maybe for you to get a short workout at the gym, or even beyond that. Say you're traveling or you're at home, I have a minimal to no equipment necessary option where I just give you a series of movements that you should be able to do at home instead of feeling like you got to go to the gym. And then another option that's rooted in, I call it a do-it-yourself option. So it's warm out here in New Mexico. People are out riding their bikes, they're out running the trails, they're out hiking, they're walking, they're outside of the parameters of the gym, right? So validating that movement as an actual workout and giving them the option, like, fill me in on if you went hiking 2 or 3 miles with your family today and that's what you did in place of the gym, let me know, and validating that instead of trivializing it and being like, well, because this is where I came from as well, is I felt like the only realistic and valid means of exercise was if I got a workout in. So I would lose out on the opportunity of getting outside and exercising amongst the earth, so to speak, here in Albuquerque, and just staying indoors. So just giving that client options as to, you have not more than four, you have a myriad of options as how to engage in exercise. How do we integrate that into your busy life based on what you've got going on, whether it be daily, weekly, monthly, seasonally?
I had a friend of mine, she lost a ton of weight. It was amazing. And all she did was eat clean. And once a week, she went out and hiked.
Yeah, it's
she
awesome.
loved hiking.
Oh, yeah.
So, and her mental state changed too.
Right.
She just committed to, unless the weather was like horrific, but she committed to, like, I love hiking. It's the thing I do. Then she started to eventually it started well, I'm going to take a trip to Colorado and do 2 days of hiking.
Oh, yeah.
It's
really cool. Like, touching on the social media piece, one of the posts that I think I have found, I think it might have been on your story, that I've found to be my favorite. I feel like it correlates with what we're talking about in regards to being outside, mainly as it plays into just being patient with whatever you're doing, whether it be we're talking about health right now, but health, obviously, I have found it segues and bleeds over into every dimension of life. And I think you were in Seattle.
Yes.
Was it? Yeah. And you had shot a video of a tree growing off of the side of a hill.
Right.
Circumstances weren't perfect, but nature finds a way. And that's one of the things I truly enjoy about getting outside and being what I call being active with the earth, whether it be hiking, walking, etc. We've got a 10,000 foot mountain in our backyard, and a lot of people don't use it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
But regardless, going and hiking, going and being outdoors, being amongst the earth, disconnecting from civilization, technology, etc., you're immersed in territory that took millions, if not billions of years to be what it is today.
Yeah, that's good.
And a constant, I think it was Ralph Waldo Emerson, I believe, was saying, adopt the pace of nature. Her secret is patience. And that's what I love about getting outside, is acknowledging, like, at least from our perspective, we don't see the earth throwing a huge fit over the fact that it hasn't built the Sandias any taller or anything of that circumstance, and just acknowledging things take time. And just like with our fitness journey, instead of getting so caught up in why has this not happened in 6 weeks, 8 weeks, a month, even 2 months, acknowledging I'm enjoying this journey and I'm enjoying this process of building myself into what I aim to be, rather than fighting tooth and nail and hating every moment of your journey, and only giving yourself permission to actually enjoy the fruits of your labor when you've got them. Because at that point, you may have lost out on 6 months, a year plus of hard work that you could have enjoyed and really reframe that experience. So that post you had put up was the nail on the head as to why I like getting outside and moving around.
Yeah, and it's funny to me because you go to the gym and there's just so many impatient people all around.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're basically drag all our junk through our whole life of being disconnected. And I mean, like, as far as being disconnected from, our bodies, being disconnected, like you said, from nature. And then me going from one building to another building, and I'm just as guilty as anyone else.
Sure.
And then I feel the only way I'm going to get a workout in is if I, move this iron back and forth.
Right.
In these set type of positions.
Right.
Like, I got to squat, I got to do bench presses, I got to do deadlifts, and there's a good benefits to all of that. Oh,
absolutely.
But at the end of the day, can you get into that a little bit, like, movement and some of the things that you've seen with your clients and exercising and stuff like that?
Yeah. So kind of segueing based off what you had just mentioned is just, I think it takes work, because each individual I'm working through a matter of, I guess you could say, reconditioning, whether they're 20 years old, 30, 40 years old. I'm 29. If someone's working with me and I'm trying to implement new habits, we're working with 29 years of conditioning of how I've lived my life, these habits, these coping mechanisms, etc., and these viewpoints as it pertains to exercise in general. And it does take a little bit of time, patience, and reconditioning, and acknowledging that any and all movement out there is an option, and not trivializing one thing over the other. As long as you're exercising, and it's a unique conversation that I have with my clients, because everybody wants the black and white answer. They want, no, tell me that I need to do A, B, C, or D in order for me to feel like I'm doing something, when in all reality, like, I end up pushing them into somewhat uncomfortable territory, because it's like, what do you think is the best option, based on circumstance?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Do you feel like you need to lift weights today, or do you need to go run, or do you need to go get outside, or do you need to get on your bike, or do you need to take a break? So I end up sweeping through a lot of gray area. And although it's a headache initially, maybe for some clients, I think ultimately it ends up alluding to more of a moment of enlightenment, or moments of enlightenment, where they acknowledge, okay, like we talked about earlier, movement and exercise is what gets them into the door. If they want to stick to lifting weights all the time and that's what works for them, I'm not going to change it. But if they're looking for other options when it comes to the grand scheme of their health and well-being, and acknowledging weightlifting is an option, yoga is an option, mountain biking, A, B, C, D, all the way to Z, and just really working together to find there's circumstantial pieces to when those are going to be a good fit. Okay, if you have a day where lifting weights is going to be ideal, do that. And then knowing that you can pivot and go do something else. Yeah, it's not going to be weightlifting, but it's going to be movement. And that's still important. So a lot of it is treating each client on an individual basis and really identifying their strengths. And if one style of workout works or exercise works for one client, okay, we're going to stick to those strengths. And then as time goes on, if they're looking for variety, it's my job to be kind of the professional filter in identifying, do we need to change the way we lift weights, do maybe different routines, or are you looking for something different entirely? And how do I facilitate that?
Or, like something that I think is hugely important, and why I think it's important to have a trainer is I'm 46. I could be squatting from when I learned in the Marine Corps, when I was in high school in the Marine Corps, to now, my form could be horrific.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You don't know that. And what you want to prevent more than anything, especially when you get past 40, when I'm 20, I can injure my knees and I'm up and rolling in, a week.
Right.
But at 46, that's something that's always in the back of my head. It's like, how can I be sustainable in the exercise that I have and then not get as many injuries?
Sure. Well, even then, based on what you're saying, say you injured yourself when you're 20 years old, having the foresight and, quite honestly, some wisdom in acknowledging, like, this injury might come back to haunt you when you're older. So just trying to find subtle balance. It's difficult, and it's a balance, and this is part of being human and going through life. You make mistakes and you figure it out. But I know we all do stuff when we're much younger because we think we're invincible, and we're pumping full of hormones because we're still growing, and we lift and exercise in ways that we probably shouldn't have. I look at how I trained when I was in my early 20s, and it was heavyweight all the time, and it was just pure aggression. And at this point in my life, I don't really have any interest in going back to that point. I don't like the amount of strain. I don't feel like it serves me spiritually, to be honest with you. And just identifying, okay, do I need to make a shift for the betterment of my long-term well-being, mentally, spiritually, metaphysically, etc., or do I feel like I need to stick with this one set way of exercising for good?
Yeah, and I think that's something that people don't understand. They separate like the physical side of things and exercise. That's purely for my body. I want to look good in the swimsuit.
Right.
And it's that type of dynamic instead of looking at it in the sense of, like you said, and I've noticed that in your Instagram, and there's an underlying tone of the spiritual side of things.
Sure.
Can you get into that a little bit with exercising?
Yeah. So I think a lot of it solely rooted in my inception into exercise. I think a lot of people can relate to this. It just initially, weightlifting was a healthy coping mechanism for me. Instead of me getting caught up, quite honestly, in any kind of substance abuse or violence of any sort, I just honed that into being very, very diligent with exercise. And initially, and a lot of it had to do with because I was young, it was end of high school, beginning of college, you just go through life stuff. I had life stuff going on that as a young kid, didn't really know how to process it, and I turned to two particular mediums or outlets, and one was music, primarily just getting caught up in listening to a lot of music, as well as a lot of weightlifting. So that planted the seed that has otherwise blossomed into what I feel where I'm at currently in regards to the spiritual element and how you get whatever you want out of the experience of exercise. For me, it's a means of, I want to be in as good of shape as I humanly can to be able to interact with the earth as best as I can. And living in New Mexico, I really, really think we have such an advantage as a state, that's as well as a city that's not super overrun and hectic and busy with people, to where you don't have to drive very far. You were talking about your friend that lost weight and she was hiking and she was getting to the point where she's like, I want to go to Colorado and hike 2 days. You don't get that by doing nothing.
Right.
You know what I mean? So for me, it's gone from heavy weightlifting as a means of getting out aggression, letting go of grief, to really coming to, in my opinion, a very positive, a very beautiful, holistic piece of like, I just want to be in good enough shape to where I can mountain bike, I can hike remote places of New Mexico and anywhere else that I want to go, and actually be able to interact with. There's a lot of positivity that comes from being able to hike or ride or run to places that, and it's not a means of comparison. It's, I think the earth brings with it, if you're wanting to get certain places, you need to equip yourself to do it. There's not a paved road there, and I like the fact that there's not a paved road there. You know what I mean? You've got to go hike. You've got to go be uncomfortable. You've got to plan for it. In order to do that, you've got to put in the work, whether it's at the gym or running around in the foothills or on the Bosque Trail, whatever it means. So it's really blossomed into a component and a dimension to where it's like, don't get me wrong, I like looking good, but I far more enjoy just being able to interact with our landscape and our outdoors, outdoor areas, to just be able to know that I can look at the mountain and know that I can hike part of it or hike all of it, or, you know what I mean? And just really figure out, okay, the earth was meant to be played around in and engaged with, and you can't do that by not being at least a little bit healthy. So that in and of itself, and the landscape of this state, really brings with it a heavy resonance of self-fulfillment and self-actualization through exercise.
Yeah, and you encourage people to go out.
Absolutely.
Not just be at your office, go straight to the gym, but make those mindful moments to be. For me, the biggest thing is, that's why I love hiking. The biggest thing with that is it hones me in my patience.
Yeah.
Because like if I'm doing a 7-9 mile hike, after about 3.5 miles, because I like to go fast, so I don't run, but I'm hiking pretty quickly, I start getting irritable. And I can see phases.
Yeah.
And then I get withdrawals from my phone.
Yeah.
So, and I know there's no service where I'm at, so that's a good thing, Right. Or I've left my phone in my, car or whatever, but I feel these stages, and then it gives me an opportunity to work through them.
Yeah.
So now I can sit here, it's like, okay, why am I being irritated right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know I'm hot. I know I'm sweating. I know I feel discomfort in my legs or whatever, but really, why am I? That's not the real reason.
Sure.
The real reason is, I want to check my phone. I want to go on social media. I want to be done with this because I've already done this for, an hour.
Right.
I'm done.
Right.
And
getting caught up in the destination too. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I know I've got, okay, here's a little switchback sign. Perfect.
Right.
I know I've got 0.7 miles left,
right.
Trying to get out of that whole dynamic in my head.
Well, sure. And also just becoming content and trusting in not knowing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
good.
Have you ever done sensory deprivation?
Yeah, with the
float tank.
The float tank.
Yeah. Okay. So that, I think my pursuit of health and well-being has ventured into that space as well, to where it's like you're in the tank or you're on a hike, and initially for the first few times, at least in my experience, you're so caught up in the end. Like, when am I going to get to, like, that hike or being in the tank or being at a gym session, in my opinion, is a microcosm of life. Are we living our lives waiting for the end? Like, just clamoring,
yes,
you know what I mean?
That's so good.
Clamoring for the end, just being like, when is this going to be? It's like, whoa. Like, if you're going to go through your hikes or your runs or your workouts that way, you're having these hour-long or 2-hour-long experiences that are reinforcing your mindset for the long term. So it's you talking about 0.7 miles being left in the hike. It's almost to the point where it's like, yeah, it's smart. You want to know that you're going the right way when you're hiking and all that kind of stuff. But there's almost a benefit to not having any markers and just having a general idea as to how long it is, and just being like, I don't know. I don't know how long it is, but that's not the point. Exactly. I'm out here hiking, and if I need to turn around, I know how to get back if I don't make it to the end, but I'm enjoying each step, each segment. But all of that comes with practice and just being conscious of as much of what you're doing as possible, instead of getting caught up in, when am I going to be done with this? Because then that just and that's one thing that concerns me about our culture, because it doesn't stop after you're done with the gym or hiking. That's a habit that we've continued to reinforce throughout our day to day, like us hanging out right now. I don't need to be caught up in, when are we going to be done?
Right.
Or when am I going to go back to work? Or when am I going to be done with work? Because then it becomes insatiable and it perpetuates itself.
Yeah, and I think we get so caught up in, living on my Google Calendar and the next meeting, the next meeting. where I get to that level inside of my head where I want to take the physical aspects of things that I'm doing,
right,
and perpetrate into that. But you're so right. That is so good. I think if anybody's taking anything out of this podcast today is, why are we so quick to die? Like,
just
why do we want to hurry up and be done?
Just enjoy the flow. Like,
right, yeah.
Even if it means taking 5 minutes, like, and being grateful for where we're at.
Right.
Exactly. I talk to clients about this a lot, and not only with their struggles with health, but their struggles in life. I think we really don't give ourselves enough credit in acknowledging how adaptable we are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
right.
You and I are sitting here having a podcast because generations upon generations upon generations of those that came before us were really good at adapting to change.
Right. Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, we were out, as a species, we're out with sticks and scavenging for food and hunting for food in ways that we have no need to do right now. And through that work has brought us to this point. And just acknowledging, like, you are equipped. Whatever you're going through, health-wise, life-wise, you've got everything that you need. It's literally in your DNA to be able to, like, this sucks. I know this isn't fun, but I can get through it.
Yeah, it's so good because you're so right. I mean, we have what supercomputers were 20 years ago that only the government agencies had.
Right.
We have in our hand.
Right. It's
so
insane.
It's been reduced to that. So having that ability and that technology. Now, with your clients, do you use any form of technology, or do you try to get them to, like, take their phones and not? Do you use it for, like, keeping track? Or
Obviously the service I provide is contingent upon an active and reliable internet, email address, as well as a device to access that. So laptop, phone, tablet, etc. So I'm facilitating the information primarily through email and one's web browser, because I have clients that I train all over the country, well outside of New Mexico. But it's really interesting that you bring that up, because it's a very unique and artful balance. And yes, I am providing the information through a medium that, and depending on how some people view it, that's really inorganic. You're looking at a phone, you're looking at a material device, but it's super unique in how you convey that message and that information through a device, an electronic device, and trying to guide them through, okay, you're viewing and you're consuming this information through a laptop, a phone, a tablet, etc., but finding a way to moderate that and balance, okay, when do I need my, you know what I mean? Like, it's super interesting because I'm teaching people to put their phone away while they eat and even exercise by having them consume it through their phone.
Yeah, but I think there's a difference between communicating with somebody for the better than just using a phone for entertainment.
Oh, absolutely.
Or sitting there going through the rabbit hole on YouTube where next thing you know, you're, watching drunk girls or, people getting arrested by the cops. You just spent 30 minutes for no reason. Where 30 minutes on an email with, client, them emailing you with, questions or whatever. Yeah. So let's get into that a little bit, with your website. What is your website address again?
Yeah, it's http://aware.training.
So it's aware.training.
Yes.
Yeah, because I looked it up today. Don't just type in aware training, because there's if you go to Google and you type in aware training, you're going to get there's awareness training and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
So it's
my SEO isn't up there yet.
So it's aware.training.
Yes.
And then what are the steps? Like if somebody wanted to, maybe somebody, there's business people out there that may not have the time.
Sure.
I would imagine the online training is probably a little bit less cost-wise than them meeting one-on-one with you.
Absolutely.
So walk through, if somebody's right now, they're very interested and they want to use you online wise for accountability and coaching and stuff.
Right.
How would that process work with them?
Yeah, it's very simple. I've taken care of the majority of the work, and that you just check out my online training or online coaching tab on my website. Click that. I'll give you a brief overview of what the online coaching process is like, the benefits of it, et cetera, and then at the very bottom, if we're still interested, I have a button that allows you to apply for coaching. Fill out a form, primarily giving me information about who you are and what makes you the unique individual that you are. You submit that form to me, and immediately you'll be redirected to a scheduling link where you and I would schedule what I call a 60-minute synergy call. We're going to sit down, whether it be over the phone or a video chat, and it's my opportunity, or rather our opportunity, to break the ice, get to know one another, me get to know you on a much more in-depth scale on how I can best serve you.
And in that call, that 60-minute call, that's where you would want, because if somebody's out and they're wanting to do this, that's where you'd want them, like you said, to be really honest.
Yeah.
And get
as much as they're comfortable with.
As much as they're comfortable with.
Absolutely.
But that's going to help you gear a program towards them.
Absolutely. Yeah. And make sure that I'm realistic. This is part of doing the right work, making sure that I'm a good fit for them and the service that I provide is a good fit for them. And in the event that maybe what I offer isn't what they're looking for, I likely can find them someone that can get them what they need instead of me, wasting their time or them feeling like they can't find somebody. So it's acknowledging I've got a service that I am confident I can provide to a large majority of people, but say there's somebody who's got something super special that they need a little bit different amount of detailed work on. I do the work on my end as a professional wanting to help continue to move the industry in a positive direction and finding someone that can help them as well.
Yeah, I think that's important because I think a lot of people out there need, especially on the physical, mental, spiritual side, having a mentor or a coach or somebody that can guide them in that direction that they need to.
Right.
Because obesity levels in the United States are through the roof and climbing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So, you can't be of service to others. You can't be the best that you can be for your business. People always look at cost, but I always look at it this way, that amount that it would cost, if you're a better version of yourself in your business, what is the ROI of that?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, if you're coming in with a ton of energy in the morning time when you hit the door running and you can have that sustained energy throughout the day, you're not crashing and peaking and all that. You're not having that irritable feeling and then yelling at somebody for no reason. Now you feel guilty. Now you go grab a Reese's. I mean, the list goes on and on. Yeah. Or you overeat at lunch and then sneaking off, going, having some drinks or whatever. At the end of the day, it is that ability to be able to have someone that's there that can kind of hold you accountable and that you can be honest with. You don't know their friends or family or... I mean, you're from this area, but I'm pretty sure there's a client.
Oh, absolutely.
Privilege thing, where they're going to... But I think that's hugely important in missing. Yeah. I think especially with a lot of business people, they need that ability to be able to...
Yeah, just do the best they can to perform at their best. And kind of the way I look at it is be as positively interactive with their day as possible. To where it's like from sun up to sundown, they were running on all cylinders and knowing what that difference feels like. Because a lot of people may have been running at a different level of idle that they don't know any better. And they don't know what it's like to maybe sleep better or have a little bit better energy during the day. So they don't have that contrasting element to really know what a preferable choice is compared to a not as preferable choice, and kind of helping guide them through those differentiating factors or rather choices that kind of promote that.
Yeah, I have. It's so interesting how much I've learned from my dog. Yeah. She has so much energy. Yeah. So I have to take her to the dog park, every day, and then I take a ball and throw it and run her. But it's amazing. And it clicked in my head a while back. I'm going to do a video on it, but it's amazing how when she can't release that energy, how her behavior is bad. That's where you start chewing on things. Or the sleep. Her sleep is, she's getting up and all during the night. But if I wear her out, like in a good way, she sleeps all. And I thought, that's the same with me. Like if I get a good workout in, my sleep deprivation or whatever, that goes away because I'm like out. You know, I mean, 10, 15 minutes, I'm done after a good workout. Sure. So people are having a lot of these problems physically, and if you need to see a doctor, I get all that. I mean, if your prescription drugs, don't want to go against, but a lot of that is not needed if we would be active.
Sure. Well, as well as just getting an idea as to what balance you need.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're never going to know unless you start exhausting different avenues and trying different things out to realize, oh, maybe I don't need as much of this as I thought I did, or, vice versa.
I was in the Marine Corps and had a lot of buddies, and they would give them, after you get back from war and all that, you have PTSD and all that. But it was amazing to me how much we all, right when we got out, gained weight. Mm-hmm. And then now you go to the VA and they put you on antidepressants and, to handle this. And so then you stop working out, you're eating badly, you're drinking at night, and you're taking sleeping pills. So now you're on this whole regime that is so where once I started to get back to working out again, those needs of those things did not, because people don't realize what working out does for your mood.
Oh, sure.
I mean, if you fight depression and there's a need, I get all that. I want to make sure that's out there.
Oh, sure.
But at the end of the day, if you're fighting depression or having these lows and the highs, I'm telling you, working out consistently and pushing through that will help you tremendously with your mood.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I call it just showing up. Even if it's the act of because I get it. Going, through anxiety, depression, all that kind of stuff is terrible. Don't wish that on anybody.
Right.
But again, it's viewing even that through a little bit different of a lens, to where, again, we get caught up in feeling like every workout's got to be the best workout on earth, and acknowledging just showing up is better than not showing up at all. Even if you just showed up and walked outside, or you did, a 20-minute workout at the gym or even at home, and just knowing that, okay, I put that in my bank account and I'm going to build on that. And just acknowledging that we've got so many different dimensions and facets of support for, okay, I've got exercise, I've got, my positive eating habits, I've got my therapist or my counselor, and not putting too much weight in one over the other, and making sure that you as time has gone on, you've been able to be really crafty and creative in creating your own support network, and knowing that, okay, I'm on edge today. I don't think I need to go see my counselor to get rid of that. I just need to go let off some steam on the weights, or I need to go outside and run, et cetera, and just knowing that you've got all these really, really positive avenues to go to based on whatever you're currently working through.
Yeah, because your body's amazing. Like you said, we're such adaptable creatures.
Yeah.
So to allow that in that more, you used the word earlier, I'm saying organic, but it's more of like holistic. I think that's what,
sure.
In more of a holistic way than to sit there and use all these crutches,
sure.
that are out there. We have so much opportunity to get out there and do things that normal people, like you said, even 50 years ago couldn't do.
Right.
I mean, the amount of equipment, even home gym equipment,
right.
the amount of home gym equipment that you can buy,
right,
and how inexpensive it is compared to.
Sure.
I mean, I look at it in the same form as TVs. I remember when like a 40-inch TV was huge.
Yeah.
To get a 40-inch flat screen,
right,
you're going to pay like $2,000.
Right.
And people are like, no. I mean, you go to Walmart and buy $250.
Right.
That same TV.
Sure.
And it's the same with, when you could buy a kettlebell for how much? A yoga mat.
Yeah, exactly.
So, these are all these things that, and I think if you're having problems getting started, or you don't have a direction to go to, that's where they need someone like you,
sure,
to put them on that path. Because once you walk the path, I'm telling you, it changes you dramatically.
Right.
Because just waking up in the morning and looking at yourself in the mirror and hating yourself, that right there alone is enough. And there are so many of you out here that are listening to this, that you're doing that every morning. And then you're masking it with something else.
Sure.
When all you really need is someone to guide you and direct you. Not in some crazy, 2 hours a day, 7 days a week, but to get you where it's a slow process. And a year from now, what does your body look like?
Sure. Well, and I would say even far more importantly than that, what's your mind going to feel like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's really, really good. Well, give everybody your website again. We've got to be done. We've gone over an hour. So
okay, cool. Yeah, it's aware.training. That's where you can find me.
Perfect, Patrick. It was awesome having you. I really appreciate you. I love everybody. Go on his website, go on your Instagram. You'll get a lot of not just, like fake motivation. There's a lot of that out there, but like, really truthful things that will help you as a person become a better person. And I hope we've encouraged you with this podcast to not only contact you to get on that path, but to make these decisions and make these choices so that you can be the best that you can be in serving others in everything that you do in your leadership. So thank you, Patrick. Appreciate
thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us on the Albuquerque Business Podcast. And thank you to our sponsor, DukeCityMarketing.com. Please go to abqpodcast.com, where you can get show notes, resources, and links to everything we talked about today to help you navigate your journey as an entrepreneur and business owner in Albuquerque.